Ryan Jarrell back for Fight Bananas, and I'm very excited to have my next guest on the show. It's one of the coaches at Xtreme Couture. It's Eddie Barraco on the show. Eddie, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you. How are
I'm
you doing?
excited. I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. A lot to get to. Obviously, Extreme Couture, one of the very best gyms on planet Earth. So we got some upcoming fights I want to talk to you about. But first, I want to go back to the beginning. This is my first time interviewing you, so I want to get to know you a little bit better. Tell me, your background in combat sports, how you kind of got into the position you're in today.
Yeah. Shoot, this was back college days. I came back from a school in Columbus, Ohio. They were dropping funding for scholarships for sports teams, except the basketball team, and I was out there for baseball. Came back, had an opportunity through my uncle. His good friend was opening a gym here in town. It was, I didn't know what it was, but at the time, this was like the first mixed martial arts gym here in Vegas. It was very separated though, like all the combat sports that, there was like individual schools just brought into one roof. So one kick Nick school did the Muay Thai program. They brought in some boxing coaches from Johnny Toko's. Cobra Kai ran the jiu-jitsu there. Guys like Jeff Glover and Rude Boy and those guys back in the day for Cobra Kai. So it was like all separated, but it was just in one roof, and it was like the new concept. And it happened to be around the same time the first season of The Ultimate Fighter was going on. And I was just like, man, how do you get into this? What even is this? And so I started at this gym. I helped build it out. It was still under construction. Then I got offered a position as one of the managers there, and then I was just training. And then I had some coaches that were like, "You're going to come train for real. You're going to do this with me." And then it was okay. We're going to get you some fights. And then 6 years later, after competing, about 2009, when my body was just not having it at all, I retired pretty early, pretty young, and decided to shift gears to coaching. I had, 300 discs in my neck and two in my back, and a knee surgery later. And I was just like, you know what, the fighting Muay Thai back then, when people didn't even know what it was, and you were going out of the country, and sponsorships were limited. You're doing kickboxing and stuff. And so I was like, let me shift gears. Let me see if I can coach. You don't even know if you're going to be good at it, right? Just like anything else. So it was one of those things. I just shifted early, get a head start, and never look back. I just wanted to continue to be in the sport since I loved it so much.
Sure. So you were originally a baseball guy. What position did you play?
Center field.
Okay. What's your team? Are you an Indians fan?
I don't dislike the Indians. I like the Red Sox and whoever's playing the Yankees today.
I love it. Okay. So where are you originally from? Because you said you went to school in Ohio, so maybe that's why I thought the
Oh yeah,
Indians.
college. I'm from Northern Nevada originally, up in Lake Tahoe area, Lake Tahoe Carson area. I moved to Las Vegas when I was real young with my mom, and so I grew up here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So this is where what I know as far as my childhood.
So how are you a Sox fan? Because I'm from New England. I was born and raised in Maine. Diehard Red Sox fan. So how are you a Red Sox fan?
My stepdad who raised me, he's from Worcester. His
Okay.
family's from that area out in New England area. So I grew up. That was like our bond, early on, baseball, and him being from there, being a Sox fan. That was like, it was just easy for me to pick that up.
For sure. You've been to Fenway, I assume.
Yes,
Okay. I mean, it's like there's no other
I
ballpark like it. It's
I no.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Well, very cool. I figured, you had to have done something before MMA. It seems like a lot of fighters that I talk to nowadays come from some sort of other sport, or at least they picked up a ball in some way, shape, or form before transitioning to combat sports. Tell me your day-to-day duties now as a coach. Does it vary every day? Is it kind of nice to maybe pick up and travel, or are you kind of based at the gym most of the time?
Yeah, I coach out of Extreme Couture. If need be, if the fighter needs you to go to the Performance Institute for something, then we'll do it if we have to. But I like to stay there. It's
Okay.
easy. And yeah, every day is different, so it just depends on the schedule, of the fighter, what their flow is. Some days we're doing pad work. Some days they're drilling. Some days it's just team practice. Some days are sparring, you know what I mean? So it does vary day to day. You know, that breaks up the individual sessions, the team sessions, and then you obviously, you know, have your sparring days.
So how many coaches are there in total at the gym?
Um, quite a bit. Uh, I would say, you know, we got there's probably over 7 or 8 at least that I'm just counting right off the top of my head right now.
So when
At,
I'm watching
at least.
UFC, yeah, so there's quite a few. When I'm watching UFC events, a lot of times, obviously, I see Eric Nixick there a lot. So are there
Mhm.
certain coaches that are designated to travel with the fighters? Like if you're at the gym, consistently, are there certain coaches that are always, racking up those frequent flyer miles?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really depends on the coach's relationship with the fighter and the role for that coach. You know, for some people, I play more of a head coach role, and for some people, Eric does, and for some people, Dennis do. You know, and everybody has that, and then the rest of us just play a support system, and whatever they need, whatever the fighter needs, whatever the coach needs, if they may be traveling for something and they have other guys getting ready, we just assist and help each other out because at the end of the day, you know, we want the fighter to be successful. You know, that's the reflection there. We're there to help them get better and for them to improve. So it's a really nice environment because a lot of times, at least from my experience in gyms in history, is, you know, everybody, oh, that's my guy, that's my guy. No, you don't work with him, don't work with that coach. You know, and you get that mentality, and it's never been like that in Xtreme Couture. And I think that's why we find so much success, that we just provide support systems for each other as coaches, which ultimately benefit the fighters.
When anytime I see videos too, like a training camp, there's so many guys on the mats. Like on any given day, how many fighters are there at practice?
Gosh, for the busy ones, you know, 30 plus, 40 on the mats, you know, both sides, probably 40 plus for sure. You know, it just depends the day, you know, some days, this Tuesday sparring day early in the week is busier than the Thursday sparring later in the week as people start getting beat up, right?
For sure.
Yeah. They're big rooms, and that's why it's beneficial to have more coaches and eyes on.
How do you balance this job with your family life? I'm not sure. Are you married? You have kids? What is that balance like if you do?
Yeah, girlfriend, kids. And in the last couple of years, I also I do other stuff as well. Income sources, you know, some passive, some direct, and um, it's uh, it's something that I think I've been doing so long in combat sports that I just have a flow with it. You know, traveling is obviously the hardest thing as far as family goes because that's pulling you away for a week at a time. If it's international, you know, 2 weeks maybe at a time. If you have fights back to back to back and you have a huge stable of fighters, well, then now you're talking about being gone every month, you know,
Mm.
maybe more every month. So for me, I don't the people that I coach, you know, I've been working with them for a long time. The people I still work with, um, and if I take on anybody else, you know, it's got to make sense, and you know, it's got to work all the way around, not just on a professional level, but personal level in your relationship with the fighters, and you know, taking time away from family to travel for them, you know, and sometimes what is like a can be a thankless sport, you know, where nobody is really making the kind of money I feel like they should be making, you know, considering what promotions are making. So it's just one of those things. But I'm lucky that my girlfriend is very supportive of me, very supportive, and you know, we make it work. So and the kids are great too. So
We're going to get back to what you just mentioned because I wanted to ask you a little bit about the state of MMA as a whole, and obviously the UFC, and then everyone else. But as far as just your career goes, do you like have specific goals as a coach, like long term, or certain things you want to accomplish? Do you have like a time frame that you see yourself doing this to? Just run me through like your, if you were given like a crystal ball, like everything you could accomplish, what would that be?
honestly, we all want those. You know, we're looking to help the fighter achieve those tangible goals, right? Like winning a world title, achieving financial success. But also as a coach, like I want to help them be better fathers, better partners, be able to look at their future down the road after fighting and still continue to be successful. Um, Fighting is an opportunity, it's not a career for these guys in that sense. So when they have that opportunity, we're just there to facilitate and help them make the most of it, make the right decisions, because I want them to be successful and achieve their goals. And then moving forward, I want them to have a plan, of what they're going to do, how to support themselves, their family, just provide an example for them, for myself as a father or a partner, and then also, just be there for them outside of fighting stuff, if they need us.
So
Um,
what kind?
but as far as like set long-term goals, it's just that. It's for me, I just love the sport. I love being in it, and I just want to help them and continue to pass on the information, knowledge that I have, as well as learn from the newer generations and things they may have for me.
I love it. What qualities do you feel like a coach nowadays in this era of the sport? What qualities do they have to be successful?
Discipline, work ethic, passion. You have to love this. I mean, through and through, because there's going to be a lot of times where it's just, if you were to look and mirror another career, versus coaching, right? There's a lot of gaps, and there's a lot of things that just don't exist in the fight industry, right? There is no insurance, there is no 401k, there in retirements and packages for benefits, and there is no paid time off. Hell, it doesn't see a holiday. You're working through Christmas, it doesn't matter, because when somebody has a fight coming up, and and your guys, somebody's trying to take your guy out and take half their check and maybe alter the trajectory of their career, like, you're not going to justify not training on a Monday because it's a holiday.
Mm.
And that's just the nature of the sport. So I think my biggest advice would be just make sure you truly love it. Don't get into it for the reasons of I'm going to get rich and I'm going to get famous. Get into it for the right reasons of wanting to be involved in this sport and help these fighters achieve their goal and be better people, and continue to learn yourself as a coach.
Do you think the sport of MMA is in a good place right now? Because obviously the UFC is the top dog. No one's really close. Then you got PFL, and obviously there's a lot of good regional shows. But I'm not necessarily sure that maybe the pay is where it needs to be at this stage. I feel like it should be maybe a little further along for a lot of these guys that are fighting on the regional scene or first into the UFC. Like, what are your thoughts on just all of that? And what's the kind of chatter that you hear from the guys in the gym from like the compensation and everything that they're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, look, who doesn't want to get paid more, right? I do understand it from both sides. You have the business perspective on it, right? Just like, if we pay all these guys X amount of dollars, then what? You're not living in a $40 million home. Like, okay, so that's the other side of it. So it's like, man, give these guys something while they have this opportunity. It's not a career. Let them be in a position where they could set themselves up for success in the future and not have to struggle. Um, because ultimately, if you're doing math on things, if a fighter's making 100,000, a coach, let's say, is 5% of that, coach is making, what he's making, everybody's paying taxes on that. How many fighters does a coach have to make an actual living a year, right? So
Mhm.
now they're traveling all the time, they're gone all the time, they're not in town for the fighters they coach all the time, so it can be challenging. For the risk that they take and what they put themselves through, both not only in the physical fight, but what people don't see in the training and the weight cut, which is so brutal on their kidneys and their liver. Um, they're literally shredding years off their life, and I know they've signed up for it, but with the money that we see coming in, it'd be nice to see them get compensated a little better. And then as far as like organizations goes, I mean, yeah, obviously it'd be nice to have multiple organizations that was able to provide at least a similar platform and exposure and pay that the UFC does, consistently. We've seen some other models come out and companies that have paid pretty good, to be
Mhm.
honest, but then there'll be like a 6-7 month gap or something where
Right.
no active, or you're forced into a tournament style single elimination, or some of the contract stipulations, or you got promotions that are popping up promising the world and then just dissolve before they even freaking exist. And you got guys like, Kai Kamaka and gosh knows how many other fighters stuck in that, disaster. And they're playing with people's careers. So it's one of those things.
Do you think the PFL is close to being like, maybe this is even blasphemous to say, but like a rival of the UFC, or a promotion? Or do you think they're at least a promotion that's going to stick around and be here for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them change their pay structure and business model here a little bit. I think I saw yesterday that they have a new executive in the PFL. I think I saw that
Mhm.
oh, I don't remember the name of the individual, so maybe that'll help. I do think that they do what they do well. I don't think their model is the same as the UFC, the way they've done it. But I mean, they've paid their, like, the fighters that I've coached that fought in the PFL. They've paid them pretty well. I mean, it's not bad pay at all. So it's competitive for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, so will is it sustainable? Will they last? Shoot, dude, I have no idea. you know,
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. You mentioned Kai. What are the chances we're going to see him back in the big show soon?
I mean, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I mean, if you look at the list of competition he's fought, uh, it's it's not like he's just fighting obscure guys, right? So his run in the PFL was against people that fought for the title. Um, and then off that, I mean, even the last two guys on the regional scene and Tough Enough, like, you had a UFC veteran, and then the last guy was a prospect that people were talking about was going to the UFC. So hopefully soon, they want him to get wins. And I know the UFC wants kills every time that somebody goes out there, but the way it goes is like styles make fights. And if you go out there and fight a guy that's, has a huge wrestling threat and is not engaging in a stand-up battle too much, and he knows like maybe he doesn't have an edge there and it's threatening the wrestling, it's like, well, only you could only do so much. You're still
Right.
winning the fight. So, to get criticized or something, or to receiving criticism for decision win against maybe somebody and that needs to do more. I think Kai is an exciting fighter. He's extremely talented. He does everything right in and out of the gym. I mean, Julian and him are their coaches' dreams. They are self-disciplined, self-motivated. They work extremely hard. They are amazing teammates to everybody. They're selfless. They're always there. They're great husbands. They're great fathers. So, hopefully he gets back in there soon. He certainly deserves it.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd love to see him back in there, hopefully sooner rather than later. You mentioned Julian. I absolutely love talking to him. He is one of my favorite guys to talk to, interview for him, but also watch fight. He comes
Yeah.
and he brings it every single time. What are your thoughts when he goes in there? Maybe you guys have a game plan set up, and then he just maybe throws that game plan out the window and just starts brawling. Like, what are your thoughts as a coach when he does do that?
Yeah, Julian is an absolute savage, right? Julian's your fighter's favorite fighter. Um, Game plan's always a game plan. We always have a game plan. Yeah, when he gets going, that game plans go out the window, and we just got a front row seat to a fist fight. There'll be times where Eric and I'll stop and look at each other and just be like, well, let's enjoy it. Might as well we'll scream and do what we can. But he's a savage, and I know no matter what, like, the guy is going to continue to just keep going nonstop. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about what Julian is going to bring in a fight if you're fighting him. And yeah, I lose years off my life every time he fights, for sure. But you know what? There's nowhere else I'd rather be when he's fighting. So.
What's the takeaway from the Melquiza Costa loss?
I thought it was a competitive fight from the beginning. I think a couple of the rounds, depending on how you scored it, I think determines the outcome of it. Um, right now, he's just healing up from the injury that he got in that fight, and he's drilling, he's grappling, he's doing pads. Obviously, hopefully, a couple weeks, something like that, he could start working sparring back into the mix. But we just do what we do for every fight. We as a coach, I look at that film over and over. I see areas, things that we could do different, better. We talk about it, and then we just work on it and we move on. So just like any fight, whether it be a win or a loss, celebrate for a little bit. You could use it for that learning experience, and then you just for the losses, and then you just move forward. You can't really hang out on either one too long. But it'd be exciting to see him get back in the mix, probably end of the year. You know,
Okay. I was going to say, I was hoping maybe for like October, but is that too soon?
yeah, October, November, December. It'd be one of those end of the year dates that he'll be at least ready for. He'll be ready to go physically and cleared and all good and everything like that. So
Have you heard like any names that the UFC has thrown around about a potential matchup? I mean, I know we're not at that point of matching them up immediately, but like, is there one that comes to mind that you feel like would make sense?
nothing that anybody said or mentioned. No, nothing that anybody like his manager has mentioned or he's mentioned. And he does. If he has people in mind, he'll say it.
Oh yeah.
But nothing that's been discussed.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I can't wait to see him back in there
Yeah.
again. Hopefully, very, very soon. Chris Curtis, the Action Man, he fights tomorrow against Max Griffin. I really like that matchup for Chris. I think he gets the win. But when you look at it from a coaching perspective, how do you see this fight playing out stylistically?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Chris gets the win. I do think it's a good fight for him. I think stylistically, if you're a fighter that's going to hang out and engage in a striking battle, I think Chris have a really good opportunity there to do what he does. So, Max is a great fighter. He pushed forward, he brings it, and I think those two matchups together, those two styles together, is going to make for an exciting fight, explosive fight. And I think, you know, Chris puts in a lot of work in the gym, and I think he'll be able to show some of the stuff that they've been game planning and working for this fight, and I hope he's able to implement that.
How did you score that Brendan Allen fight that he had? That was very close.
Um, yes, it was very close. Um, remind me what in the it was what the because that went that was that a finish in that fight?
No,
No,
that
it was,
went the distance. That went
yeah.
the distance. Yeah.
Um, I mean, those fights, it's like some of those ones, right, where they're like razor close or go back and forth, right? It's hard. It's hard. You see it all online all the time. People are like acting like it's a huge grievance, right? Where you have these razor edge fights or these close fights, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it was a robbery! It was a robbery." For those things, it's like you can't be mad either way.
Mhm.
You know, um,
Fair,
but
fair enough. That I mean, it was a very close fight. I was just curious from if you remembered it. It's been a few months removed now, longer than
yeah,
that. So
I'm trying to picture it, but I think ultimately it's like you see it all the time in the razor edge fights. Is everybody's like huge grievance on one side or the other, as opposed to just being able to go, yeah, you know what, that was a close fight. It could have gone either way.
you never know what you're going to see with the judges these
The
days.
judges, man, golly, I think they honestly should be sat down in the rules meeting, and the judges should have to explain exactly what they're looking for this fight, how they score. I know what it says in the rule book, how it's supposed to be scored, but I want to hear it from their mouths. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want them to say it. I think it'd be a stepping stone to narrowing down, starting to wrangle in the issues of judging. But yeah, that's a whole nother topic, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that all day long, but yeah, something definitely needs to be done with judging. There's been a lot of really, really wacky decisions. It's been going on for a long time now.
Long
Uh,
time.
I, I also wanted to ask you, Dan Ige's got a big fight. He's taking on Pitbull next weekend. How do you see that fight playing out? Is this going to be a stand-up war? Or you think this is going to be hitting the ground? Like, what do you think we're going to see here?
Gosh, I mean, if it went either way, it's like I wouldn't be surprised, right? Because you got two guys that absolutely can strike, but they're also very smart. Like Dan's a very cerebral fighter. He's very smart. He has a high fight IQ. You know, Pitbull's been around a long time, has a lot of experience. That brings fight IQ, right? At what point, if somebody feels like they don't have the advantage on the striking game, or if they're just trying to mix it up, do they mix it up with some grappling, some clinch work? How does that approach work? So yeah, it's a very good question. Um, I think it's going to be fireworks for sure, and I think Dan's going to come out on top. Um, Pitbull is a great fighter though, so it's going to be a fight. Respect to everybody in that one, but you know, Dan, Dan hits extremely hard, as we all know. And he can also wrestle and he can also scramble. So we'll see. We'll see.
You got Dustin or Max?
I got Dustin.
You think he gets him out of there, or is this going the distance?
Every Hawaiian fighter right now in the gym cursed my name. Yeah, I don't know why. I think, gosh, that's a hard one though. That's a hard one. Dustin or Max. Because they both have great boxing for MMA, right? So it's almost like one of those things for that fight. It's like who's on that night, who shows up their best, because I think they're capable of beating each other, right? Just depends on how the fight goes. Obviously, I mean that goes without saying with most fights, but I don't know. I think. Gosh, now that I said Dustin, I'm not even sure on this one. That's a tough one to call. Holy moly!
Yeah.
It's weird because like I know them both. I like them both. They're good guys. They represent the sport very well. And I think they're just world class competitors and people. So that's one of those things where it's like whoever wins that fight, I'm not mad. I'm sure we're going to see a great fight. With the boxing, it's like they both have some good boxing. I would like to see. I would like to see mixing it up. If I'm looking to go into this fight, if I'm fighting one or the other, I'm gonna use my legs more. I'm not gonna they both will stand in a firefight. We know that they're both gonna just stand there and exchange. They feel like they're getting that. So Max, showed maybe against Gaethje that might not be the best thing to do, but that's just like one of those things. Like you can get caught, and he could have easily missed some of those strikes, and that never happened. So it's going to be fireworks in that show. It's going to be a great battle of just grizzled vets, right? Just really skilled fighters.
The winner is going to be the fans. There's no doubt about that, regardless of the outcome.
Accurate, 100%. The winner's the fans for sure in that one.
I want to ask you a little bit about Sean Strickland, but I'm really not sure where to begin. So why don't we just start with his last fight against Dricus? Obviously, I think Dricus just continues to
and Tough Enough. My bad.
What's that?
Oh, I thought you were talking about his last fight in Tough Enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, well, we could definitely talk about that a little bit too.
No.
Well, yeah. I want to stick to, I guess, the meat and potatoes of his actual career inside of the cage, and obviously Dricus is just one of those guys that keeps proving the doubters wrong, right? Like,
that's unwavering belief in yourself. It's obviously combined with ability, but like when you have that unwavering belief and confidence in yourself, it will carry you a long, long way in this sport for sure.
And he's clearly, a very, very well-rounded fighter. Were you just surprised as to, how, I mean, he won clearly against Sean the second time around. Were you surprised by what you saw, I guess?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, obviously watching that, you're yelling to do more. You want him to do more. You want him to mix it up. You want him to let it go, when you're faced with obstacles in that fight, it's like you can't really tell somebody what they should have done or what you would have done. It's hard to say, right? Um, I've been in fights, and those things are very unpredictable, and you just kind of don't know how it goes and how you're feeling with somebody or how you're feeling on that particular night or where their head's at. And there's so many factors that play into the one night experience. You know what I mean? Where it's like the Super Bowl, right? You got one chance to get it right. A fight, you got one shot to get it right. Whereas, like, you see other sports, they have series, they're the best of 7.
Right.
So you could have an off night. You can even have 2 off nights and still pull. You could have 3 off nights. So Red Sox came back, we were down by 3 in that series, right? So fighting is not one of those things. So Sean's a great fighter. He's a competitor. I would like to see him bring that violence and that pain in the fight a little bit more, like he talks about, and I think he'd be very successful.
What was his mentality like after the fight with Drickus? Like, was he down in the dumps? Like, what was he saying afterwards?
I didn't have like a personal insight into that right after. When I see him in the gym, he always seemed to be in good spirits. After that, he was still participating and training right away and helping out in the gym and helping other teammates out in the gym. He's actually a very good teammate. He'll stop and help corner people if they don't have a corner, and there's coaches that are cornering the other guys. Like, he'll stop in and help. And believe it or not, basically opposite of what you see sometimes of Sean, with the antic side of things, he's actually very good in the gym and a very good teammate too. So it's strange because you see the persona on camera.
No, for sure. Well, you mentioned the whole tough enough situation. Is there some sort of punishment that he's facing? I know, like, the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I'm not exactly sure the specifics what happened, but are you able to elaborate on where that stands right now?
I have no idea where it stands. I know the fighter had brushed off the notion of like pursuing any sort of legal thing against Sean, that he wasn't interested in that. As far as the athletic commission goes, I'm not really sure where they're going with it. I certainly don't know the intricacies of where they're at. So
Okay.
unfortunately, hopefully nothing. Hopefully everybody could just get a stern talking to, and managers and everybody could sort it out. So luckily no real damage or anything was done, but the tempers were flared, and rather than just letting it slide, he's not the person that's going to let something slide. So, I mean, I think he could have been anywhere. He could have been in a room with 15 cops in a random place, and if you said that to him, he's probably going to fight you in front of them anyway. So.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned, him being a good teammate and, helping the guys out. And I think a lot of times, maybe like what the casual fan sees is like the negative side of things, of maybe him going too hard in sparring. What can you say about that with the teammates? Does he do that, or is that just like people that want to come in off the gym, sign a waiver and see what it's like to spar someone like Sean Strickland?
Yeah, I mean, if you got some random Joe Schmo coming off the street talking about, I want to spar your best guy, or I want to get in the ring with pros, or they're calling people out, like, they're probably going to get made an example of. I mean, the videos that you've seen even recently, like with Sean, or even that guy with Natan in the gym sparring, or they did not get it pretty hard. Like back in the day, it's described, like if you came in the early days of Xtreme Couture, Jay Huron and Mike Pyle, all those guys, Randy still active, all these guys, that you came in there doing that then, you're probably going to get sent out in a body bag. So it wasn't that bad, all things considered. I know I've seen it way back in the day, and, people didn't make it out of the ring in one piece, So, but as far as him training with teammates or with people that come in from out of state, because we do have a lot of people that come in from other states or other countries to train at Xtreme Couture when they're in town. It's not excessive by any means. It's not dirty. It's not excessive. The sparring is as it should be. There's nothing out of the norm. Sparring is hard, especially if you're sparring in boxing gloves. You're sparring. I mean, for me, MMA has different forms of sparring. Sometimes you're like, and you can only go so hard with the puffy gloves, right? Before you're just we're back in shoot box academy, just knocking each other out every day, right? And that's not productive. But with boxing gloves, or even back in the day, sparring was like a fight. So we'd have a coach in each corner, and we're going to fight. If we rock somebody or we hurt somebody, we're not trying to finish you, but we're trying to get after it. With MMA gloves, you got to go a little bit easier. But no, Sean does a good job in the gym, and look, you're getting into a fight. So if you're half-assing every single sparring round you got going easy, the speed, the pace, the all the adrenaline, everything's going to be a lot different come fight night.
For sure. How frequently are average Joes coming in off the street wanting to like spar one of these guys? Does it happen a lot?
No,
Okay.
very. This is a once in a while type deal. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can't imagine it because you've seen the videos and it just boggles my mind. You think that, you'd want to like self-preservation, like be smart. Don't go into a gym like that
Yeah,
and try to pick a fight.
I'm not sure the mentality. I couldn't tell you. It is a strange phenomena. People wanting to do that, But when you hear people talk about a fight, it's a whole lot different in your mind of what you think you're going to do as opposed to the reality of it. And I'm like, I wouldn't look at another profession and tell them that I'm going to do what they do better than them, right? Like, I'm not going to walk into a construction site and just like snatch the trowel from somebody and be like, oh, I watched this on YouTube, I could lay this tile better than you, right? This is just not how it works. Like, nobody says that they're going to hit a Nolan Ryan fastball, right? But for some reason, when it comes to fighting, everybody has this opinion. It's like, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But these guys, this is what they do for a living. So to come in off the street thinking that you're going to compete, it's just strange to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely bananas. Let me ask you just a little bit about Francis. Any update on maybe when we can see him compete next, and will it be MMA or boxing? Do you have any insight on that?
I don't have any insight into specifics, but I know there's definitely some talks right now going on, and he's definitely looking to compete here soon. I'm not sure if it's going to be in MMA or boxing. Um, I'm not privy to any of that information with Francis. So it'd be good to see him back in there though. And, I hope he's doing well. And I know he's gone through some hard times. He's such a good guy. He's really such a good guy. So you hate to see it. You really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, no doubt. Prayers to him. He's
Yeah.
definitely been through a lot lately. There's no doubt. Who would you pick if Tom Aspinall does fight John Jones?
Who do I have between John and Tom?
Yeah.
Um, it'd be easier to say had John Jones not been inactive as long as he's had, right? Um, it's hard to ever count him out. He's so freaking talented. The guy it's pretty crazy, to watch him compete. I think Tom presents some absolute challenges no matter who faces him. But I think John gets that, if I'm being honest. I think he's really talented. I think he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and you know, I don't think I could personally just count him out strictly on inactivity in a fight. But it would be interesting, and I think if there's somebody that could bring some potential, mismatches for him, I think Tom could do it.
Yeah. Well, I sure hope that they do get it done. I know that the whole White House rumored fight card is something that might bring John out of retirement. So we'll see. Let, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Last thing before we get out of here today, Coach, tell me, is there a couple of young up and comers at the gym that maybe like the mainstream MMA fans don't know about yet, but they're going to one day down the line? Like, give me a couple of names that you feel like really could make waves in the UFC, whether it's a year, two, three down the line.
Gosh. I don't have my finger on the pulse with the amateur team as much as I would like to, only because my time schedule in the gym doesn't line up with them. And I'm out of there before they're in there, with kids and everything, getting done with the day. Um, I know, Mateus, who just fought in the UFC, who just had his debut. Like, the kid is a monster. He fell short in that fight. It happens. But his work ethic is incredible, and I really expect him to just bounce back off that loss and hopefully be able to show everybody what we see in the gym. I mean, in the gym, the guy is an absolute killer. You know, so it's one of those things where it's like if you're sparring Mateus, it's going to be a rough go. Like you're going to have to bring it with him. You know what I mean? And there's definitely some other guys, that I see that go out there and just dominate in what they do. They do really good. Colby's one of them, and Blake. Those guys, their wrestling is absolutely insane. Um, Kobe fought on the card, the first Tough Enough card that Kai fought on. I think he got a rear naked choke in 20 or 30 seconds or something like that. So he's a menace, and even at his weight class, like for his ability to dominate guys that are much bigger than him, like I look forward to seeing him continue to develop his striking, and be able to bridge those together more and more than he already has. He's shown a lot of improvement. So Chad Decker is another guy in the gym. Great work ethic, still fighting on regional scenes, but has a lot of potential. Those are some of the guys I think of off the top of my head that I know of.
Well, I know you guys have a room full of killers, and I'm sure you could go on naming one right after the other.
Really,
Yeah. Well, Coach, again, I really appreciate you doing this. It's fantastic to talk to you for the first time. Thank you for all the info and the knowledge on your end. If before we do get out of here, if there's anything you want to plug or just anything in general you want to give a shout out to, the floor is all yours.
no, I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy it. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody who tunes in and watches and supports your platform.